Going back would be easier. It would also cost too much. And if you know the safe life still works on paper, but no longer feels true in your bones, this is for you. Because that's the tension, right? The easier path is still sitting there. The safer life is still available. The version of you that made sense to everybody else is still sitting there waiting. And that's what makes this so hard. Not the pressure of building, not just the doubt, not just the fear. It's knowing you probably could go back, but something in you knows the cost would be too high now. And that's where I am. And I think if you're my person, which I know you are, that is where you are too, because this whole week, underneath all of it, has really been about one thing. What does it cost to keep hiding? What does it cost to keep living a life that looks fine on the outside, but no longer fits on the inside? What does it cost to keep editing yourself into a version that makes sense to other people, but no longer feels true to you? That's the question. And I know my answer now. Going back would be easier. It would also cost me too much. It would cost me truth. It would cost me alignment. It would cost me the version of me that I know is trying to come alive right now. It would cost me the chance to build what I know I'm here to build. It would cost me the ability to look at my life and know I told the truth with it. That's too high of a price. And I think a lot of people are paying that price quietly. The person still in the W2 world who knows there's something more in them, the person who keeps telling themselves, this is fine, this is enough, this is responsible, this is what I should want. While something deeper keeps whispering, this is not all of you. The entrepreneur in the messy middle who is tempted to go back because this road is harder than they thought it would be. The parent trying to build something meaningful while still carrying a family. The spouse trying to love the life they have and still answer the call they feel. The expert who has all this life, instinct and experience inside them and still cannot explain what makes them different without shrinking it down. That is who I care about. Because I know what that tension feels like. I know what it feels like to have a life that made sense. A title that made sense. A world that explained me a path that other people understood. And I also know what it feels like when that version of life stops feeling true enough to stay in. It's not a small thing. Because once you feel that, you cannot unfeel it, right? Once you know you are hiding, you cannot unknow it. Once you know the life on paper and the life in your bones are not fully matching anymore, the tension changes. Now you can still stay, but staying starts to cost something. That is what I've learned. The safe life, it's not free. It just charges you differently. It charges you in regret, in numbness, in disconnection, in the quiet ache of knowing there is more in you and continuing to act like there is not. That is expensive. Now, maybe not financially, but spiritually, emotionally, personally. That kind of cost adds up. And I think a lot of people call that cost maturity or responsibility or realism, but sometimes it's just fear with better PR. Sometimes it's just what hiding sounds like when it gets socially accepted. And I do not want that. Nope, not for me, not for the people I love, not for you, and not for the people I know I'm called to help. Because this is not just about building a business, it's about becoming fully who I am, while I still have time to do something with it. It's about no longer betraying the thing inside me that has been trying to get my attention for years. It's about no longer hiding behind what is safe just because it's easier to explain. That matters to me. And yes, there are days this feels hard, lots of days where my mind gets loud, days where the weight feels real, days where the easier road looks tempting, days where going back looks cleaner, simpler, more understandable. I have those days, but I also know what going back would mean now. It would mean shrinking. It would mean silencing what I already know is true. It would mean choosing temporary comfort over long-term truth. And I do not think I could live with that anymore. That's the shift. I'm not doing this because I love difficulty. I'm doing this because the cost of hiding is finally clearer than the cost of change. That's different. And maybe that's where you are too. Maybe your life still works. Maybe it still looks respectable. Maybe people around you still understand it. Maybe it still pays the bills. Maybe it still checks all the boxes, but deep down, maybe you know that if you stay there forever, it's going to cost you too much. Too much truth, too much life, too much of who you really are. That's real. And if that's you, I want to say this clearly. You are not crazy for feeling that. You are not selfish for feeling that. You are not broken for feeling that. You're waking up. That's what this feels like. Painful sometimes, inconvenient sometimes, lonely sometimes, but true. And I still believe this is worth it because I would rather live in a costly truth than a very comfortable lie. That's the line for me. I would rather live a costly truth than a comfortable lie. I would rather build something real, even if it takes time. I would rather tell the truth, even if it costs me certainty. I would rather become fully who I am, even if the path is harder to explain. I would rather do that than spend years performing a life that no longer fits. That is why I keep going. And there's another reason. My family. I love my girls. I love my wife. I love the life right in front of me. Right there. That is exactly why this matters, because I don't want to build success and lose my soul. But I also don't want my girls to inherit a version of me that chose comfort over truth because I was too afraid to wrestle honesty with what I knew. I want them to see a man who loved them, a man who was present, a man who showed up, a man who had those car conversations, a man who kept trying, a man who told the truth in his life. That matters to me. Because one day they're going to feel their own calling too. And I want them to know that hard does not always mean wrong. That safe does not always mean right. That hiding has a cost too. That courage is not the absence of fear. It's truth with movement. That is what I want them to see. That is legacy to me. And it's also why I care so much about helping other people do the same. Helping people stop hiding, stop shrinking, stop explaining themselves in language that does not fit. Stop acting like their life is smaller than it really is. That is what I want to help fix. There are too many smart, experienced, gifted people walking around knowing the safe version still works. Did that hurt? Did I speak to you? Well, you were also knowing you cannot keep living there forever. What you need is not more hype. You need language. Language for what is true. Language for what has been true about you for years. Language for what makes you different. Language strong enough to build the next chapter on. That's why I built findyouronly.app. That's findyouronly.app for the person who knows the safe life no longer fits, but still cannot explain makes them different or what they're here to build. Findyouronly.app. 8 questions. It's free. Yes, it's free. The only cost is your time. It takes about 8 minutes. It helps you put words to what is true so you can stop hiding and start building from something real. It helps you name what has always been there. So your next chapter is not built on guessing, and it's built on truth. And if this whole week has hit home for you, which I hope it does, I want to ask you one final question. What truth about you are you done hiding from? What truth about you are you done hiding from? Tell me in the comments. Let's finish this week right here. Go to findyouronly.app. 8 questions, 8 minutes. It's free. And as always, be the only. Be the $2 bill.